It's not a contradiction. This is quite interesting. A book revealed from an illiterate person talking about science. There should be a scientific mistake in there, right? Because science evolves. Science, we learn as we grow in our knowledge and technology. So if it says something about science then, it must have been proven to be a mistake now. Like how people used to believe that the world was flat, how people believed in various things now we know to be untrue. The Quran talked about many things. The Quran says how the universe was joined together as a one piece and God parted it asunder. Actually, science is now telling us that this is the case. The universe wasn't all there was all the time. It was actually one united piece and there was an explosion and the universe is expanding. The Quran says, and God brought every living thing from water. That's what science is now saying. Actually, the source of life, you have to look for water. But this is coming from a man who was in a desert. There was hardly any water and he's saying every living thing is from water. Totally opposite to common sense. So things that the Quran says, you expect it to get it wrong, either science or from history. At one point the Quran says, the Pharaoh at the time of Joseph, the Quran doesn't use the word Pharaoh. It says king. And when it talks about other prophets like Moses, it says Pharaoh. So does what many people used to think, they're all pharaohs. But now with our knowledge of ancient Egyptology, we know during the time period where we think Prophet Joseph's reign was, they were not called pharaohs, they were kings. The title Pharaoh came much later. Yeah. How does the Quran bypass this and make that distinction when the Bible doesn't even distinguish it? Bible calls all on the Pharaoh. Had this Quran been plagiarizing and borrowing from other scripture, you should take the information because that's what everyone believed. But the Quran says no. The Quran talks about various things which, like the cities that was lost, that was not even found, like one of the cities of Iran. I actually went there in Syria in 2001 or 2, long time ago, and went to the place where they found these tablets. This place called Tel Marduk or Ebla, where they found one of these tablets. You know how you have cuneiform tablets and so on, they used to have all these transactions or history written on those tablets. This is the way they used to write. Yeah. And they were saying, these people, they dealt in businesses, the people of Iran. So it was a known place, known enough to be a city of having a transaction. That was totally unknown to history. This particular passage in the Quran, like Iram Dhati al-Imad, people said, historical error in the Quran by some of the critics of Islam. When that information came, we don't hear anything about it at all, because now we should be asking them. We were so sure that this city never existed. How do you now account rationally? How did Prophet Muhammad know this in the Quran? When to our knowledge it didn't even exist. It's only when we excavate and unearth our history from the relics and artifacts from the past underneath the grounds, in the remains, archaeological remains. Then you realize whether it's history, whether it's science, the Quran, the information it gives, how does it get it all right? Now think about it for the sake of statistical probabilities. If the Quran was from a brilliant mind, maybe he's a genius, right? This is the argument of genius. If he was a genius, first thing, you should be able to match something like it with all the helps. Bring a chapter like it. Okay, that doesn't work. But what about the things else he says? Maybe he was a genius, he worked it out, or maybe he did a guesswork too. Okay, so you can do by guesswork one thing right, two things right, few things right. And if you know mathematics well, you know the science of probability. If you have one situation, you want to get it both right, the probability is 50-50, 1 in 2, 1 over 2. 50% chance to get it right, 50% chance to get it wrong. Yeah? If you have one situation. Yeah. If you have two situations, to get both of them right, the probability is 1 over 2 times 1 over 2. It's 1 over 4. Yeah? That's how it goes. So your probability becomes more and more not to get it right. So you have 1 chance to get it right and 3 chances to get it wrong, if you have 2 situations. If you have 20 situations to get it all right, the probability is almost about 1 million to get it wrong and 1 chance to get it right. So the probability of getting it right is 1 against 1 million. So if the Quran gives you more than 20 situations and all of them are right, 1 million chances to get it wrong and 1 chance to get it right, and the Quran got it right. Something else is going on there. It is not a matter of probabilities of guesswork. Quran gives more than 20. I'm just giving you a figure which roughly amounts to 1 million. Okay, I did the calculation. If you look at 1/2 times, you come to a point where 20 situation comes to around 1 million. So he wasn't then doing a guesswork. Even if you have a guesswork, let's apply some guesswork. Describe me a mountain in your own words. Oh, it's an elevation on the ground, maybe quite high, right? That's what majority of people will say. The Quran says mountains are like pegs. When you go camping and you put a peg underneath the ground, how much of the peg is overground and how much is underground? Much of it is underground. Much of it underground. The Quran is saying, Quran is saying mountains are like pegs, meaning if the mountains, much of it is underground. Did you know that this is the case? Most mountainous range, what we see is like a tip of the iceberg. Most of it is actually, most of it is like underground. Now, can you go to a near mountain and dig up and find this information? Even today? No, you can't. With our sonars, when you beam the sonar, and we can find out the depth of it. Okay? The technology is from today. 1400 years ago, how would someone know this information? So, common sense tells you, even as a guesswork, you won't make this guess. You will make a guesswork to the opposite, to the other things. And the Quran gives you this information. When the Quran says about how the baby is born from a sperm that is emitted, the sexes are determined there. The boy or a girl is determined in the male secretion. Do you know what this to believe? This to believe the human beings is actually fully formed. It's called the preformation theory. Fully formed in the sperm of a man, and when it goes into the woman's womb, with the blood, it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So a whole full human being, either in the egg or in the sperm, and it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the baby is born.
But it's determined by the man.
Yeah. Even in the 17th century, when they invented the microscope by Van Leeuwenhoek, 1753 or 63, they claim they can see this exactly, and they drew it. It's like this shape, and there's a whole human being at the top, folded like this. But of course, we know that's true, not true. But that was believed even in the 17th century. Even with this microscope, you won't be able to see these things, but they said they claim they did, and the Quran says no. The baby is born in successive stages, one creation after the other, and the sexes of the baby is determined in the manili yumna, the ones which is emitted by the male secretion. We know that in the male secretion, the sperm carries the chromosomes, the X and the Y.
So that's mentioned in the Quran, is it?
No, Quran doesn't say X or Y chromosome.
No.
It says He created the male and the female from the emission from the sperm that has been emitted.
The determination.
Yeah. So now we realize the man and the woman is already determined from the male secretion. So what makes it determined? Because the man, if he provides the Y chromosome from this in the sperm, it becomes a boy. If he doesn't, just provide the X with the woman's X chromosome, it becomes a girl. Okay. So the Quran is telling you something even to this level of detail, where our understanding of these are very recent, very recent. I am not saying this is a miracle. I am saying at least consider this to be interesting and amazing for you to reflect and study, something to study further. Think, how would a man living in a desert without any tools of this nature describe these kind of things, and not even illiterate, and says, I am a servant of God, slave of God, only come to tell you to worship Him, God alone, no one else, not me. Worship God. I'm only a messenger conveying this message. People in the past, when they studied these kind of things, They made him like, he is one of the most successful leader in the world, most successful scientist, philosopher, successful statesman. You make him everything apart from the most successful or the last messenger or a prophet of God. Okay, that's all he's claiming to be. I am a messenger of God. Okay, come to tell you to worship God. Yeah. So what you, as a very inquiring, truth-seeking individual, your role would be to use your intellect that God has given and to say, okay, let me go and read and study and reflect on this. If I find convincing, I'm going to accept it. If I find this is something totally man-made or from other than God and so on, you have in your own means to reject it. But you have to examine it with proper care. That's why the Quran says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Have they not pondered over the Quran with care? Not a superficial reading. So the Quran is demanding that you read with care and attention. And if you do that, of course, the evidence will be unfolding in front of you. That's what the Quran is saying. That Allah says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. We shall soon show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth. So we have a promise from God that God will show us signs within the horizons and within ourselves that this is the truth. Islam is the truth. The Quran is the truth. You know how the Quran deals with reason. People say, look, when we are rotten, our flesh are rotten, we are bones only, and you say we're going to be resurrected again? Quran says, even if you became like this, He is able to bring back like the tips of your own fingers. Nothing special, or is there something special about the tips of our fingers? What are we using our tips for today in forensic science? Because it's unique. Our fingerprints are unique. The Quran is saying, it doesn't matter whether you're rotten, you're wasted away, no flesh, bones are broken. God is going to bring you back as unique as you are, like the tip of your fingers. Point number one. Point number two, you doubt resurrection? Consider how God created you. In the first place, He created you from this, from that, from this, and the transformation of this stages is given. This is how He will resurrect you again. So when now scientifically, when we understand how babies are born, God is telling us 1400 years ago, He created you like this. He's going to create you like this again next time. Will that be a problem? No problem. He says, which is difficult to create? You, أنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها. What is more difficult to create? Create you or the universe? Of course, the whole universe. So if God could create the universe, well, how is it to create you? Not only that, look at the levels of reasons Quran gives. He created you awwala marra, first time, and He will create you again. When He created you first time and He describes you, if someone creates something first time, this camera, is it difficult to create second time? It's much easier. Quran is saying, think. He created you first time. Why do you think He's unable to create you second time? It's even easier, isn't it? So the Quran reasons with us if we didn't believe. This particular point about أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. It says, have the unbelievers not known or seen that the heavens and the earth was joined together as one piece and God parted it asunder, and God brought every living thing from water? Would they then not believe? My focus is on the first and the last point. It's not addressing the Muslims. It's addressing those who don't believe yet. It's giving something in the middle. And at the end it says, would you then not believe? Would you still not believe? Would you then not believe? Wow. It's asking us, are you still not going to believe when you didn't believe in the first place, and give something to think and reflect and reason in the middle? What are the things given in the provided? One from astrophysics, one from biology. the cosmology of our universe, that we really understand the current understanding that the universe was not always there, but it was united in one singularity, and it was with a huge separation. We called it Big Bang. So Quran uses the word rataq and fataq. In the Arabic language, rataq and fataq is like forceful separation. Okay? This is what the Quran is describing, how it was from the singularity, it was then separation. And the Quran also talks about how the universe is, God is expanding it. He is the expander. The way it says, He is the one who's the expander, meaning He's continuously expanding it. Again, that's a conflict with modern science. Science is saying it's expanding, but is it going to contract? But the Quran goes even further. It says, in the end times, God will roll back the universe like a scroller's roll. So there will be another big crunch. The Quranic teaching of the cosmology is it's expanding from the singularity, and then it will be again contracting. Yeah, and then there will be another universe, another world. I mean, this is what we're saying. This world that God will create eventually is bigger than this world. This is where paradise
It is controlled by Allah. We know that the humans.
God is in control of everything. Yes. So the point I'm making is, look at the way Quran reasons with people of knowledge and intellect. It simply says, look, have you not known this? Actually, today, we could say, yes, we know this, that the universe was like one piece. But then they didn't know. Okay? They would just believe merely, oh, this is the case. Now they believe about every living thing and say, would you not don't believe? Now how can we now, knowing this information today, still not believe in it? This is those who don't believe, the role what's playing of their mind and the intellect is one of stubbornness and arrogance. And the Quran says, don't be an arrogant like Satan. Satan was an arrogant, stubborn. He saw God created Adam and gave him life and says, look, bow down to him as a sign of respect. He says, no, I'm not going to bow down to one who you made with clay and you made me from fire. So his pride came in. So Quran says, no, there's no room for no place for pride. You humble yourself to God. Many are atheists today. Do you know why they're atheists? They don't want to humble themselves to a creator which is greater than themselves. Like how can there be a creator who created all this? No one created all this. This is the pride and arrogance and stubbornness some people have. That's stopping them from believing. The Quran says, no. You humble yourself because you were nothing. The Quran says, do you not recollect and remember that at one point you were nothing? You were nothing. We were nothing at one point. Absolutely nothing. And then we came into this existence. God gave us sight and hearing so that we can be grateful to God. We can be grateful and thankful to God. So God, our God, Allah does not demand us blind faith. So far I've given you things to reason and ponder and reflect with, so that you can be sure in your heart and your mind what you believe is true. So you're convinced rationally, intellectually and spiritually. Not just somebody says, believe, you're gonna get better, you'll be healed. No, if you do believe in the true belief, of course, the Quran says, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." Surely, in the remembrance of Allah, in God, the heart finds tranquility. And you will see when you're connected with God, nothing will make you into despair. You will be tranquil, you'll be patient, you'll be safe. You are not going to take your own life away saying, oh, look what's happened, I lost my job. No, you will have that peace and tranquility. You know why you were created here for. You were not created to be successful in this life, getting the best job and so on. I mean, you were created to fulfill the purpose in this life. So the purpose may have been that, you don't have the jobs like some people have, and yet you still can sustain your life from the provisions of God. If you have this ultimate reliance on God, provisions will come to you from nowhere. There are hundreds of stories like this. They have ultimate reliance on God. They had nothing. They're totally poor. There's a story from this is many of true stories like this. But it's important to understand that people often belittle these things. There was a man, a daughter, and her daughter, very poor, no means to get any medicine.